Good evening, everyone. So now we're looking at performance management (PM), and we'll continue from introduction to investment appraisal. Our last time when we talk about investment appraisal, we said is the method or the situation whereby an entity evaluates or appraise its project, which is non-current asset. And we said capital projects are normally capital expenditure. And we said we have two major methods of appraising a project. We said we have a traditional method and the discounting factor method. If you can recall with me, we said under the traditional method, we said we have the ARR, the accounting rate of return, and the payback period. And payback period. These are the two traditional methods. Under discounting the DCF, we have the NPV and the IRR. Yes, we also have what we call discounted payback period. Though this is not part of our syllabus, but we also have discounted payback period, whereby before you cumulate your cash outflow, you must discount it. That means you have a discounted cumulated cash outflow before you now check it with your initial outlay to know when the project pay back its capital initial outlay. Today we will focus on discounting cash flow method of capital investment appraisal. Why do we have to discount our cash flow before we evaluate our projects? The major reason why this method is because of time value of money. If you agree with me, you understand that 1,000 naira 10 years ago does not have the same value 1,000 naira today. 1,000 naira 10 years ago or 1,000 naira 20 years ago can purchase something that will worth about 10,000 naira today. So that means if you have money, you kept money in a place 20 years ago, that money maybe you kept 20,000 naira 20 years ago in a place, and the value of what that money can purchase that time cannot buy the same value now. So that is what we said, there is always time value of money. So one of the basic principle of finance is that a sum of money today worth more than the same sum in the future. Let's say 1,000 naira today is better than it will purchase, it has a higher purchasing value than 1,000 naira in 20 years time. So a sum today can invest to earn a return. The reason why we're saying that is because it will always yield a return if you invest money now. Because if you keep 1,000 naira today in the bank or in an investment, in 20 years time the investment can yield 10,000, it can yield 100,000. That's why we said 1,000 naira today is better than 1,020 years time. This alone makes it worth more than the same sum in the future. This refers to a time value of money. Here we are talking about money today will worth more in the future because of the return the money will yield. Discounted cash flow method use cash flows and automatically make allowance for time value of money. Discounted cash flow techniques considers the net cash flows as separate as representing the sorry for the distraction. So a discounted cash flow techniques consider the net cash flows as representing the recovery of original investment plus a return on capital invested. So this discounted cash flows have two major methods. Though there are several methods, but the major two methods that is part of our syllabus is the NPV, which is the net present value. How can we calculate the NPV of an investment? And the second one is the internal rate of return, which is the IRR method. The cost of return the capital cost of capital, R, is the actual return expected from the investment. Why the other so also have the profitability index, the PR. This is similar to the key limiting factor used in a capital rationing. The ratio of NPV to capital investments is called the profitability index. That is the PI. I mean, this PI, this one is just like your our limiting factor. That means if the companies have different investments, different capital investments, they're now looking at, and they have the constraint. Maybe they have 5 major capital investment they want to embark on, but the constraint here is that they don't have enough capital. They don't have enough capital to invest in all the 5. So we will now ration it based on the capital that is available for that for that company. So, but how will you know they wants to invest on is by using this PI, by using this PI. Now, the decision approach. Then, how are we going to make a decision? For decision under capital rationing, the decision rule is therefore to invest in a project with the highest profitability index up to the limit of the investment capital available. I mean, that's the way you use the limiting factor. You have to invest in project A, project B. They based on you will rank them. You will rank them based on the highest PI. That means which is you first calculate the NPV. Calculate the NPV for each project. You now divide the NPV by the initial outflow. Then after then you get your PI. Then the one that have the highest PI, you now rank them. Then you now invest them based on the capital available. So you now invest on them based on the capital available. Now the decision under acceptability of a single project. The decision rule is therefore to accept the project with the highest profitability index. So the another method, but this is more advanced, is the advance of the IRR, which is called modified internal rate of return. Modified internal rate of return. Modified internal rate of return is calculated of the return from a project as a percentage yield, where it is assumed that cash flows earned from a project will be reinvestment to earn a return equal to the capital, to the company's cost of capital. It is more realistic than the IRR. Now this one is that IRR will give us a particular rate of return. But why this one is like they modify the IRR. It will give us a percentage, just like a percentage, and this percentage is more actual, is more accurate than the what IRR. So I give you the formula here. Though this IRR, you don't need to bother yourself more on so I said the square root of n a over b minus 1. So where a is the compounding value of the cash inflows, then b is the present value of the cash outflows, the n is the number, is the project's life in years. So let's look at how to calculate our NPV. For NPV, we said the first thing, the method to calculate NPV, the first thing is to do is to list all the cash flow expected to arise from the project. This will include the initial investments, future cash flows, and the future cash outflows. Now, the first thing to know in the NPV is to know the initial outlay. Now, what are the initial outlay? The total cost of the project is your initial outlay. The next thing is to know is the cash inflow. What are those inflows you want to get? To get the cash inflows under NPV, it's always the cash inflow, not the profitability, not the profit you are receiving for the investment. You must work back to get your cash, the cash that you will receive. That means you will have to add back depreciation to the profit. we will get for each year to get the cash outflow or the cash inflow. Now the cash inflow must also follows um relevant costing. You are taught relevant costing. You must follow relevant costing, whereby you must know those inflows that will form, that will affect decision making. That means any sunk cost, any past cost, any historical cost will not form part of our relevant cost, the cash inflow. And again, our fixed cost, which is depreciation and other fixed costs, will not form part of our cash inflow. So what would there is that only a set incremental fixed cost will form parts, say incremental fixed cost, and any cash fixed cost will also form parts. So you can revise more of your relevant costing to understand the cash inflow that will form parts of our investment appraiser. Now the discount, this cash flows to their present values the using the cost that the company has to pay for its capital. The cost of capital as a discount rate. All cash flows are now expressed in terms of today value. So you have to discount your cost of capital. You give in the exam the return, the cost of capital. So you have to discount it before you now use it on the cash flow. So I'm giving you the formula here for the discounting the cash flow. Now let's talk about the annuity. Now this is the annuity factor. For example, if you want to calculate our NPV, whereby we have a constant cash inflow, we have a constant cash inflow. That means, let me say you will receiving a particular annuity or a particular cash inflow for 5 years. For 5 years. Now that means that is a constant inflow. You want to know all the total amount that you will receive. What is the total amount that you will receive for that 5 years? Now if you just for using the formula, using the table, you can use this annuity factor. Your 1 minus, open the bracket, plus r, which is the cost of capital, this power minus n, this is number of years you will receive the cash inflow, then divided by r. You get your factor, then you multiply with the annuity, which is the amount you receive every year. It will give us the total value of the present value. It will give us the present value of that annuity. Now the step 3 here is that you look for the NPV of the projects. It's difference between the present value of all cash incurred and the present value of all cash flows or the benefits. That means here is that the NPV is normally you minus your initial outflow from the present value of the cash incurred, cash or cost incurred. Cost incurred can be inflow, can be your cost incurred and your cost and the present value of the cash flows. I mean the cost incurred means all other costs that you incurred, the variable costs that you incurred in that future period, and all the inflow, the cash inflows. When you look at the reference value and the cost incurred, the initial outlay is your NPV. Now how we take decision under NPV? The project is acceptable if the NPV is positive. Now if NPV is positive, you accept the project. While if NPV is negative, we reject the project. Now let's look at IRR. Now for IRR is the internal rate of return method. It's another method of investment appraisal using DCF. The internal rate of return of a project is the discounted rate of return of the project that makes the project to break even, unlike your CDP, which particular rate of return, you are expecting that will allow your project to break even, in which you break even, neither you make loss nor you make you make what profit. So the decision under the IRR that a company might establish the minimum rate of return that it wants to earn on an investment if other factors such as non-financial considerations and risk and uncertainty are ignored. One, if a project IRR is higher to or higher than the minimum acceptable rate of return, it should be undertaken. It should be undertaken. So if the IRR is lower than the minimum rate of return, it should be rejected. Now, what are we saying that? How will you undertake a project using IRR? Okay, after you look at a project, you are told that this project will give us 20% inflow. It give us 20% inflow. Guys, you are giving that I think giving you the interest rate, the interest you will get for the project is 20%. By the time you calculate your IRR, I find out that the IRR of that project is 15%. It's 15%. It's 15%. It means that that project should not be undertaken because it means that the project should not be undertaken if the IRR of that project is lower than the minimum rate of return from that project, then the project should not be undertaken. But if by the time you calculate the IRR is not equal or is higher than the minimum from the project, then the project should be what? Should be undertaken. Then you should take the project. You should accept the project. So since NPV and IRR are both methods of discounted DCF analysis, the same investment decisions should normally be reached using either method. Now, what is the formula for the IRR? The formula for IRR. Now, using the interpolation method. So I'll be giving the formula which is small r, which is the r that make the project positive, over the NPV positive, over NPV positive minus NPV negative. Then multiply it with your when you subtract the big R, which is that make the project negative, and the small r that make the project positive. Then when you multiply it, you give us the IRR of that project. Now let's look at this illustration 3. So we are giving the initial outlay should be which is 53,000, and we are giving the cash profit for 4 years. The cash profit for 4 years. So we are giving the year 1, which is 17, year 2, 25, year 3, 16, and year 4, 12,000. You have to calculate the NPV of that project using the discount rate of 11% and the IRR of that project. Here, we can use the table. Here, we cannot use our annuity because assuming you are giving 17,000 for the whole 4 years, then we can use the annuity formula. But because we are giving different cash profits for each year, we cannot use that annuity formula. Now let's look at the suggested solution. So calculation of net present value for the project. So in year 1, we would put year. After a year, you put the cash flows. After cash flow, you put the DCF. Then you put your present value. Now that means the initial cash flow, that means the amount you want to embark on that project is your initial cash flow. It will start as year 0. Then, which is year 0. Then we have you put it, you jacket it because it's an outflow. It's an outflow. Then when you look at the formula, which is 1 over 1 plus r raised to power n, n raised to power 0 is 1. So 1 divided by 1 will still give us 1. So you can try that. So we have, when we multiply with 1, we have the same half minus 53,000. In year 1, when you look at your the 11%, this year was 1 over 1 plus 11%, this power n. So when you do that, you have 0.9009. In most cases, in our exam questions, you look at ICANN past questions, you will see the DCF, the discounted discounted cash flows of each from 1 to maybe 20 to from 1 and above, 1, 2, and the rest, maybe to like 20 or 50. I cannot remember the particular where they stop for the, but you have the figure table there, which is the discounted cash flows. So sometimes you don't need to push a calculator to do this. You can pick it from the question booklet. You see there. Then you multiply it with your cash flow. We have our present value. By the time you look at the total, the addition of everything. I start this one from this. We have 2,210, which is our present value. So our present value, which is our NPV. Now, when you look at for the NPV, you look at it, is positive, which is the project is viable. Then we can undertake the project. We can undertake the project. You can undertake the project. But let's look at IRR. Let's calculate which is a B. Calculate IRR. Now for IRR of the project, then we will look at the 11%, which is the same thing as our 2,210, which is positive. Then we look at a particular discounted rate that allow the project to be negative. In most cases, in your exam question, you don't need to bother yourself or start calculating different rates. Just look at any higher rate. In most cases, when you multiply the one that make it positive, when you multiply by 2, you should be able to have a negative present value. So here I multiplied by 2, which is 22, but I use 21. So you can use 30. So any one you use is correct. The examiner will mark it correct as long as it's negative. Now, by the time I use 21, in 21, you find that the present value is negative. When you subtract all the positive from the negative, you have, when you add everything together, you have a negative present value. Then you now go back to the formula of IRR, which is small r. Small r is the rate that make it positive, which is 11%, and the NPV of positive, which is 2,210. The NPV of positive 2,210 plus negative times negative give us positive. That's why I use plus. The NPV of which is 7,210. Then 21, which is the higher rate minus the lower rate. Then by the time you look at everything, we have 13.34%. So this is the high IRR. Is IRR of the project. Now you are told that using IRR, is the project viable or not? If you are told that the return from the project, is let me say is 12. Let's say it's 12 and the IRR is 13, then we should accept the project because the IRR is greater than the minimum return of the project. That means whenever you want to accept or reject a project, you must look at the IRR. Once the IRR is higher than the return of that project, if the return of the project is 11, then we should accept the project. I mean, this is the minimum. IRR is called the minimum rate of return that you should accept from any project. Is the minimum. So any any return that does not meet this IRR, then we should not accept it. So any return in which so as long as the IRR is higher than, so if the return rate of return of that project is higher than the IRR, then we should not accept the project. Because I said, because IRR is the rate that will make the project to be break even. So once the rate is not higher, the minimum rate is not higher than IRR, the project will not be positive, it will be negative. That's the meaning of IRR. IRR is the lowest, is the merest, is the lowest rate of return that you should accept. Once any investment is not higher than your IRR, you should not accept, because by the time you look at the present value of that project using that higher rate of return, your project will give us a negative NPV. You got a negative NPV, so actually we should not accept the rate. Now let's talk about capital rationing a little. Capital rationing. Now look at this particular illustration. The capital investment is limited, that is a constraint to 5,000 naira. There are 4 investment projects available with a positive NPV. So the company has 5 million naira to invest in 4 different projects, and all of them has NPV, positive NPV. In most cases, if you are given I can pass question, because there is no question, I can pass question, it's just only 1 year, which is May 2016, that they brought question. No, they not brought any question on capital rationing. Though it's not in the syllabus, but you should be able to understand the capital rationing. The ICAN might bring it in our exam. So that's why I bring sources like this. You should understand. You should be able to understand how they calculate capital rationing. Now, capital rationing means that it's just like a limiting factor. It's like a limiting factor. You have a constraint. The company has to want to invest in 4 projects, and you must calculate the NPV of each of the 4 projects. Of each of the 4 projects. So then you now rank them. Then you now invest on them based on the one with highest ranks. Now the 4 projects has a positive NPV, which are their initial outlay. With 4 projects, one is 5,000, one is 2,100. Sorry, one is 5 million, one is 2,100,000, one is 1,400,000, one is 1,500,000, and the NPV are given as below. So what are the solution to this? Is that you look for the profitability index. Profitability index, the formula is NPV over initial outlay. So for the project one, it will be NPV. NPV is our NPV is 6,250,000. So 6,250,000 divided by 5 million. So we have 1.25. The same thing, 4,200,000 divided by 2,100,000, we have 2%. 1,540,000 divided by 1,400,000, we have 1.4%, 1.1%. Then we have 1,950,000 divided by 1,500,000, we have. So by ranking, the 2% is higher, which is project 2, followed by project 4, then followed by project 3, then followed by project 1. Sorry, followed by project 1, then project 3. Then when you look at it, the company cannot invest on everything, because what they have is 5 million, and we have this project, they have more than 5 million. So you invest based on what the company can invest on. So you will rank them. So for the ranking, we have project 2, which is the first. We invest is 2,100. The company will invest on everything. Project 4 is the second, which is 1,950. By the time you add it to which is 1.5 million. Added to the project 2 zone, it give us 2,100,000 plus 1,500,000. It give us 3,600,000. 3,600,000. You still have balance of 1,400,000. Then which project is which is the project 1? Then we invest in part of project 1. Now how we know what to invest? We invest the balance, which is 1,400,000. Now how we know the particular NPV? The NPV of the project is 6,250,000 times times 1.25 give us the 5 million, which is 5 million times 1.25 will give us the NPV. So that's what we invest on. Now we're not investing on 5 million, we're investing on 1.4 million. It will be now 1.4 million times the profitability index to get our NPV. So if you can work back mathematically, it will be 1,400,000 times 1.25 will give us the NPV of 1,750,000. So we get the total NPV of 7,900,000. 7,900,000. That is the total NPV for that investment. Now let's look at this illustration. Illustration 5. Illustration 5 is adapted from I can pass question. So I will employ us to read it very, very well. Read it very, 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 very well, because time is not on our side. So we can read the past question very well. Because of the time, I'll go straight to the solution to explain the solution of this past question. So we should be able to read it very well, to digest it. Then, so what I have to do here, we are asked to calculate one. Prepare a 6 years profitability statement for the two machine. We have two machine, DEFA 700 and Sigma 500. We have two machine, and the two machine have different capacity, and they have 6 years each. Then we have different costs to purchase the 6 machine. You are given the selling price of 300, the variable cost of 150. We are given the annual fixed overhead exclusive of depreciation. We are given the maximum capacity, which is 100,000 units, and we are told that all costs are cash. That means all costs are relevant cash, so we can use them to calculate our NPV. Mind you, when we are told all costs are cash, then all costs, both the fixed costs, they are cash, then they are relevant costs. As soon as if they say fixed cost is cash, then that fixed cost is part of your relevant cost. But if you are told, if you are not told, you are not given this particular 4, 7 and 8 information, it means that it's only selling price that is relevant and variable cost that is relevant. Fixed costs are not relevant, and the division is not relevant to calculate our NPV. Now let's calculate the 6 years profitability statement for the company. Because of we are running off time, maybe our next class I will explain this question very well. But before then, you should be able to go through the question. How did I arrive at this How did I arrive at these figures? You can punch the calculator and compute with me. But mind you, the unit is the unit that I'm using. The unit is the 100,000, which is the maximum capacity, times each year has a capacity, which is 50%, times the 50% will give us the 50% times 100,000 will give us 50,000 units. That is for year 1. That is how we get each unit they will produce for each year. Is the capacity times the capacity, which is the percentage times the 100,000 units will give us each unit in each year. And now we get the selling price, the sales. Portability means you are doing it just like the way you used to do our accounting, our profit statement. The sales will be our selling price times the unit produced. Variable cost will be our variable cost per unit times the unit produced. That's how you calculate everything. Then you subtract it. You have our profits. We have our profits. So, and as I did Sigma, the same thing happened to Zephyr. Now this is just our accounting profit. Remember, it's just our accounting profit. Now, because of the sales look for profitability, we must calculate our depreciation. Must calculate our what depreciation. And how we get our depreciation? Depreciation is very simple. Depreciation is very simple. It's just the initial cost of the asset, which is 18 million for let's say let's use Sigma for example. The cost of Sigma is 16,500,000 divided by 6 years, which is the depreciation. That's how we get our depreciation for Sigma 500. While for DEFA 700 is 18,300,000 divided by 6. That's how we get our depreciation. So that's how I'll get our depreciation. So all the other things are our selling price, just multiply your selling price with the unit stated here. That's how you get it. So I will explain this question again in our next class, but we are not done with our investment appraiser. But hopefully our next class will continue our investment appraiser. Then I will explain this illustration again. Please, I will explain the illustration again and the decision under it. But before then, able to look at the question illustration very well. Look at the solution. If there's any question you want to ask me, can easily ask me directly on my WhatsApp, or you call any of the two. I'm available. Just tell me area you are lost, and I will explain to you. If our next class, I will also explain the illustration. Okay. If it's understood, see you in our next class. Good night.